Hello everyone and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. And by the way, this will be the only one for this week because Thanksgiving is Thursday and I know that you'll be with your families and probably not so interested in listening to health information. I'll come back to that at the end, but as you can see I have a special guest. Usually it's me sitting in my office reading the news and commenting on it in terms of health and that sort of thing, but we're going to do something a little bit different. Our conference was last weekend. As many of you know, I've been talking about it for weeks on Video Clips, and we made arrangements for a couple of our speakers to stay longer, one of which is my good friend and colleague, Dr. Peter Breggin, because we had other things to do in addition to the conference. So we've just spent another 2.5 days together, which has been marvelous since the end of the conference. And I thought we should take this opportunity to make a clip and let you get to know Dr. Breggin a little better by listening to Dr. Breggin talk about Dr. Breggin. I'm always talking about you, but there's something different about having Dr. Breggin do the talking, which I think is really wonderful. So that's why we're doing it this way. So first of all, welcome to my YouTube channel, where we have lots and lots of visitors, and we have lots and lots of discussion about all kinds of things. And you might want to just start by telling your impression of conference this past weekend. You were there. I mean, you were presenting through a lot of it. I think you did 3 talks.
I did.
Yeah, you did 3 talks. So, but you also sat through all of the workshops, too.
I did. I sat through a lot of stuff. Superwoman. I don't see a cape or a magic ring or a discus that you can throw, but this woman has changed my life in so many ways I can't recount it. But I want to start with something really personal. I'm a psychiatrist who doesn't believe in psychiatric drugs. I prescribe them in order to take people off of them. I don't believe that neurotoxins are a form of treatment for emotional issues and the problems that people face, whether it's severely distressed people that get terrible labels like schizophrenia, or whether it's folks just struggling with things that are obviously life issues like loss of a grandmother, or the death of your pet, or getting fired, or having marital problems. So because I have been a critic of psychiatric drugs and diagnoses in much of the field, I often get contacted by nutritionists over the years. I'm 81 years old and I've been doing reform work very actively since 1972 or 1. So it's a lot of time during which nutritionists have gotten in touch with me. And until I met Pam, none of it seemed right to me. It didn't seem science-based. I've rejected psychiatric drugs as a psychiatrist on the basis of science. They don't work. And even if they worked a little bit, they kill a lot of people, they hurt people's brains, they're hard to get off of, and so on. And by the way, I always like to add that as dangerous as they are to take, they're equally dangerous to get off of. So if you decide, you read my work, or you decide to reduce your psychiatric drugs, it's good to have some wise clinical supervision and a network of friends, or at least one close friend involved. What I found about nutritionists that I came across was that they were just selling products, and the products were perhaps harmless or not as dangerous as psychiatric medications, but they had just as much false hype. I just couldn't believe the various things I was being told. And a few times people tried to suck me in to actually endorse products that I didn't want to endorse. And so over the years I got sour on nutritionists. And it didn't help that my wife had inflammatory bowel disease and got so discouraged with her treatment and with her various nutritional solutions, some of which just made her worse, that kind of turned me off. And since my wife has a lot of influence in what I think, I was just turned off to the whole field, basically. And for some reason, when Pam called, and I think Ginger took your call, Ginger was impressed with you for some reason, because she said to me, she's like my gatekeeper, You know, I always end up talking about Ginger. This is odd. She said, because she plays such a role.
Well, if I was married to Ginger, I'd talk about her too. Knowing Ginger.
She said, yeah, I think it's good for you to go to this conference. And I went to one, and I gave her a talk which was wonderfully well received. And I sensed in Pam, perhaps in many ways, the nearest thing to me and what I do, and how intensely I care about people being injured, and how much I want to offer something better, and how much I'm willing to stand up to terrifying forces the way you are, and how I've, with God's blessings and good fortune, I've managed to survive all kinds of attacks. So I was very impressed. And then the speakers, I mean, these were scientists talking, and they were making sense to me. And it fit with my knowledge of evolution, which is something I'm interested in just from the viewpoint of the human psyche. How is our brain and mind and spirit evolved? And then I noticed something different about Pam than me, which is, well, she seems to have my whole skill set. Oh God, does she have skills I don't have? In terms of organization, of relating to large numbers of people, getting people to help and join her.
Telling them what to do.
Telling them what to do. Two of the most important women in my life, Ginger, of course, being the most important, are really bossy. Ginger's mother, after her errant first two divorces, both of us were married twice before, settling in ways we never should have, and so on. And so Ginger's mother instructed her that she needed a really strong man, not a weak man, a really strong man who would be able to appreciate her and not be afraid of her. And I think it takes a really strong man in many ways to partner with you. Too.
With bossy women,
Yeah,
like me.
Strong. and also women who have so much intelligence and skills that I don't have. This is way off topic, but that's really interesting. I was shocked when I got a partner in Ginger who, after I would give her a short talk on one of the most important things I've thought about for all of my life, would ask me questions and raise points I'd never thought of. Or I'd come back from a big legal discussion with heavyweight lawyers, and this is in the early years of our 35-year marriage, and I'd bring up what we concluded after our day of work, and she'd say, I mean, without even thinking, without even imagining she was saying something important to the story, she'd say, well, did you think about this or that? No, I didn't think about this or that. I'll call them. I think I get in touch with the lawyers. So my experience with Pam is of someone who's just ahead of me in a lot of ways. She's very appreciative of what I do, so there's no humiliation in it. But it's just an amazing partnership that we bring things to each other that we might not fully have by ourselves. And I think Pam is going to hugely expand the world's information and knowledge of my work, which is essentially this a really scientific and caring, empathic approach to helping human beings, not a phony medical approach. One of my greatest disappointments in life before meeting Pam was that even though I'm a medical doctor, and I love my wife so much, I had no tools, I had no knowledge, nothing to help her with these devastating immune disorders that she would go through. She'd have one and recover, she's so strong, she'd have another and recover. And then it, in recent years, has settled into this terrible inflammatory bowel disease documented on pathology slides, and something that goes along with it that most doctors don't realize goes along with it often is really terrible shifting joint pains without obvious pathology, and then allergies that go along with these general immune disorders, asthma. So she struggled, and she was struggling more and more. And finally, in April, Pam had me here at her offices to do I don't know, 20 videos for this wonderful course. And what a gift to me to have these documented, have them archived, have people watching them. And then she just pitched in and did a lot of work on it. Of course, I couldn't believe it. And found a young psychiatrist to teach it, so I didn't have to be online. I could just, talk like I'm talking now. And during that time, I became increasingly convinced that I needed to try this new approach to eating, because I wasn't a terrible eater. And the main reason was I knew if I started it, that Ginger would see me starting it. She loves me, so she cook the right foods, or we'd buy the right foods, or go to the right restaurants. Didn't expect her to do much cooking, because she didn't care much for cooking. With the lack of energy in recent years, she just puts whatever she has into the most necessities of our relationship and of our work together. And I thought, it might help me too, but I might get Ginger into this. And since Pam is such an expert in gastrointestinal disorders, I thought maybe it would just especially help Ginger. So I went on the diet, and I probably did a pretty good job. And after about a week, weight just started disappearing. I'd always been overweight. It was an embarrassment to me, and I always felt morally that the amount of that eating meat wasn't right. I always thought that. I mean, I loved my dog more than anybody else in my family when I was a kid. I'd cook him and eat him. So, but I figured that wasn't even going to be on my bucket list. It was going to be next lifetime I would be a vegetarian, because I knew, and I sometimes told people that's a moral feeling of not being able to cook. I never told you that, I don't think. So, but my biggest sadness was not being able to help Ginger, and with her physical disorders. And so for the first week, the weight started coming off, and I think within 6 weeks, a very short period of time, I'd lost 28 pounds. I was way overweight, and I still need to lose some weight. One of the funniest things about it was 2 weeks in, I started to get faint. And I thought, you know what? This diet won't sustain me. I've not enough energy or something. Got to eat more meat or something. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. What else would be making me faint? Well, I had mildly high blood pressure and was on a small dose of blood pressure medicine. So I took my blood pressure, and it's 105 over some low number. Now that's way down, and that's kind of getting a little borderline, I think, iffy.
Hypotensive.
Yeah, and I'm 81 years old, and the last thing in the world that I need is to start dropping down and fainting and breaking a hip or something. So my internist actually had some familiarity with the China study. I'm in Ithaca, New York, and that's where Dr. Campbell comes from, and he knew one of the people who worked with him, so he didn't interfere in any way. But it didn't get involved very much. But he said, drop your blood pressure medicine, which I would have done anyway. And I now have a blood pressure of a young man, not an old man. That really impressed Ginger, and it happened so soon. And then whatever gastric issues I tend to have, and started getting better. And as fall approached, I always used to get pneumonia or a severe bronchial inflammation every fall for several years. And it was Ginger actually who said to the interns, I think we need to check him for asthma. I know he's not wheezing, but you don't have to wheeze to have asthma, and she instructed him. And he said, I tested for asthma, and I came out that I responded to the medications, which is the test for asthma, but not necessarily a totally valid way to approach it. But so for 5 years, I've been free of severe respiratory illnesses in the fall and only took antibiotics maybe 2 or 3 times in the fall. So how free was I? And I barely anymore use those medications for asthma. I used them once here, coming into a new environment. I took one dose of nasal and breath, but I took them every day, twice a day. So and I haven't gotten sick at all, and I haven't been on antibiotics since April 1st when I started this. And I can remember telling my specialist in allergy and asthma, saying I don't like being on antibiotics, and he said, well, how many times a year do you go on? I said, I go on 3 or 4 times. He said, that's nothing.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably what he sees every day. That's the thing. That's the norm now.
That's right.
Be sick, take drugs. Be sick, take drugs.
That's right. It was my norm, and in many ways, I was much healthier than most people my age. I can't attribute this vital 81-year-old to the new diet. I've always been that way, but I'm so much healthier. So then Ginger decided that she was going to take this huge leap, and she was going to once again hope something would help her ulcerative colitis. And she got Pam's, what do you call it?
It's the IBD manual.
The IBD manual. And we talked about it, we worked together on it. She's been helping me, I'm helping her. And about 2 or 3 weeks into it, she says to me, I don't think I have it anymore. I think it's gone. I said, Peter, I haven't had pain this week. I haven't had pain. My wife was in so much pain from her joints, multiple shifting, that she could finding a comfortable position in bed before she went to sleep was a routine we were familiar with. It took a great deal of time, and when she had settled into the position, she did not want to move. All that's gone. Her gut, we both had, I think, a couple of viruses along the way that distressed our guts a little bit, but she has had none of the awful pain in her gut. She's essentially normal in her gastrointestinal system. So I owe you my improved health and maybe even I do believe my wife's longevity. And I owe you my giving me back my wife and giving herself back to herself. Yeah, I really do.
Oh, thank you.
Ginger's mind is back. I mean, she's realizing now, see, when you're really sick, it happens gradually over years, and you never realize how sick you are, very rarely. It's like psych drugs. You start on psych drugs, and it's so gradual how they degrade your quality of life. You don't know that the neurotoxin is doing it to you. And then we go into denial. It's a natural human thing. But now that she's off the meds, and she realizes, and I can see clearly from talking with her, that the pain, the managing of the pain in her joints and in her abdomen, never mind having to run to the bathroom, had taken away so much of her spirit over the years. I mean, we've learned that our love shines through whatever is going on, which is a wonderful lesson. It does shine through, folks. But that brilliant mind is back. And I have to get used to it again, because it's just shock, to come up with what you think is a really great idea and just in natural conversation to discover that it's not really so good. Or did you look at this? Or, hey, it's great. I've seen this and this and this in the scientific literature, or this is people are tweeting about this right now or something, because she goes from the tweets to the scientific literature. So I love you. You have given me stuff that can't be described. And I'm trying to describe it.
Thank you. And I love you too. I mean, I consider it one of the great privileges of my life that I get to spend time with you, and that we cook up so many interesting things to do together, like writing articles and books, and courses and all kinds of things. We have big dreams, And of course, you know, I always get what I want. And one of the things I wanted was to have you as a partner. And so I am so, so blessed. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank all of you. You know, I know what it means to have an audience. And come check me out. I'm Breggin.com, Breggin.com. I have 10,000 visitors a day. And one of the reasons they come is I have frequent alerts that I put up, as well as the hugest amount of information on the dangers of psychiatric drugs in the world, free on my website. My frequent alerts when I get back will pertain to things I've learned at the conference. I'm going to put up the choicest quotes from Peter Goetze, who's my friend and wrote Deadly Psychiatry. So visit Breggin.com.
I always refer people to Breggin.com. And your alerts are in my newsletter too.
Yes.
Really are
Thank you for that. I did have a thank you for that.
Yeah, you have, and it's great. People really like it, and if there's a week where you don't have one, they ask about it. That's how you know they really like it, because people ask when it's not there. So thank you.
Now, and check out my radio show. You can actually, we've set it up so you can alphabetically look. I've got over, 350 shows or something weekly. I've done about 5 with Pam. You are now my most frequent guest, I do believe.
Oh, thank you. That's an honor.
But top people in the critical psychiatry movement, which is kind of the name they use in Great Britain, a lot of Brits are on my show, are on that. And Peter Goetze from Denmark is on, and Bob Whitaker, a lot of people that are well known. And, there's just a ton of information on the website. And Pam's going to help me get it out a lot more.
That's the plan. And one other thing, read Dr. Breggin's books. Fortunately, yours were the first books I read about psychiatry. And so I learned the right things from the beginning. I've often said, for some reason, I've been blessed to find out the right things about things, so I didn't have to necessarily know the wrong thing first and then change.
Yeah.
Well, to wrap this up, I said I'd come back to Thanksgiving. So we all have a lot to be grateful for. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for our partnership.
Grateful for you.
I'm grateful for all of you. And I'm going to leave you with these words. So on Thanksgiving, when you're sitting down to dinner with your family, I always tell you this every year, I want you to think about the voice in the back, my voice in the back of your head when you're getting ready to eat something. And just ask yourself, would Pam have this for dinner? And if the answer is no, then you have a couple of choices. Have a tiny, tiny amount of it, or maybe none at all. And then have a wonderful time. Enjoy your holiday with your families. I'm certainly going to be doing that with mine. And I will be back to you on Tuesday with more news. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, pass this on to anybody else who you think would enjoy it too.